underneath our floor, so we were able to control all these ball bearings. We kept trying different ways how to get these ball bearings to flow around, and every crew member had a different thing. It was like, we felt like we were kids when we were shooting this thing. I think the shot the Digital Domain did, work. Something that was razor thin. Previs, I showed it to Steven. Steven loves to see my previs. He saw it, he gave me a high five. Loves previs. I mean, because we talk about this as director to director. This is our time to play. This is our time, and it costs nothing to do it. I mean, it's very, very cheap, and so you can play on your make-believe set and come up with shots. It's just it's a freeing tool. It really is. I think storyboards are a thing of the past. Storyboards, crews just don't look at it. They just don't compute. Whereas if you actually see a cartoon, and you've got music to it, and they can see it in a 3D world, and it's just much more. It's easier for all the departments to pick out what they need to do. It's easier for the camera people to figure out what are going to be our marks going around this thing. You can count it out. You can do real time. I mean, previs you can actually how much distance you're covering. So if you're doing a car chase or you're doing a car coming around a turn, you can have the car going 30 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour. I mean, it's very scientific in terms of I guess your simulation. The heart of it is a tool to make camera moves. Is you've got to move little cursors around, little keyboards, and that's just not the way. Someone needs to invent to fluidly move camera around a 3D space, and I have not found that invention yet. People keep thinking they have it, but I haven't seen one yet that really can give you the sense of what it's like to do camera moves. So the hardest thing to find with my previs guys is people that really understand camera and how cameras move. I'll give you an example, like a crane move. Crane just doesn't automatically start. It's got a cadence to it. So the thing that I would always try to do with ILM, which we worked a lot on the Nemesis, is a motion control move is something that is very precise, and it's like zzz, and that's not how a crane moves. It takes mass. You've got two guys pushing the crane, so you've got to get this 1,500-pound thing moving, and then it's got...
Sorry, interrupted.
This mass, and then to stop it, it's going to do a slower kind of stop to it. It's not going to stop on a dime. And that's the thing you always try to... Just having so much set experience and camera work, you got to try to get that always with your digital effects, and you make it feel like it's shot by a real camera in many of the ways, especially if doing 3D sets. Otherwise, it feels too manipulated, I guess. It doesn't have that man-made feel to it. Fraternity I was in, this Sucker house I was in, that's a UPenn fraternity. Honestly, we never had women like this at my fraternity. Summertime, okay? It's summertime, I keep remembering those boys back in Florida. But we never had girlfriends like this either. A little email to Ben, who I love working with Ben, Sarah.
Sorry, interrupted.
He's my DP. He's done a lot of commercial work. But movies, you need to be a little bit more controlled. You just absolutely do. You just have to be more precise on your lighting. And the thing that I'm always critical about is making sure that there's always a pop in the eye, because that is a window to the soul, and it's something you can't add later. Commercials, you can get away with murder because you're working on TV, which is a brighter format, and you're able to push things a little bit more. Film is much less forgiving, and there's just a little exposure issue. And it's always easier to add a little bit more light, because when we go to the digital process, we shoot it on film. So now it's on negative, okay? So you've shot on film. You now take that negative, you scan it, and now it's in the digital world, where we now have full control of color, of contrast, of the highlights. You can bring up darkness, you can crush things, you can make things darker. And it's always helpful to have a little bit more light on that film, because I can always bring it down in the coloring process. And it's sometimes DPs don't understand that final process. So I sent him a little love note, say, Ben, next time we work together, a little bit more light in the eyes. So there were a couple issues on this movie, but I think Ben shot a very rich negative. I thought he was very good at speed. He kept up with me. Great guy, never lost his cool. That's what I love. He's He's Australian, but he acts English. He lives in London, so DPs. It is tough for them to keep up with me, but I have a DP background. I'm very involved in the lighting, setting up all the shots. But I help make it easy for DP because I'm not one where I go away and like you figure it out. I'm there on the set helping them figure it out, and my thing is I just like to shoot. I like to shoot, and there's nothing more dreadful directing than waiting to shoot. I like to keep a good pace. It's just a thing I like to do on my sets, and I think a lot of people appreciate that. Actors and crew, and it's a lot of high energy.
But I am not.
Was in 7 other locations before it landed in this order. Sort of the moment when you choose cut to the Decepticon storyline,
And you have to sort of see it to feel it.
Yep.
It's hard to.
That's very tricky.
And we're aware of that as we're writing even the first drafts and know that things are going to be movable.
I remember once when we got advice from Michael Mann, who said you write the movie 3 times. You write a movie when you write the movie, you rewrite a movie when you shoot the movie, and you rewrite a movie a 3rd time in post. And that's never been in the editing process, and that's never been more true than it was in our experience on both Transformers movies, because I think we are pretty brutal with our dialogue and our scenes when we're cutting, and we're not precious about it. We try not to be precious about any of it, and yet you want to protect the things that are emotionally important. The flow of the structure ends up really dictating the way that an audience experiences the story and the emotional story of the movie.
Interesting about this, I had my little iPhone when we went to go shoot this sub, the USS Topeka, and dock at the San Diego Naval Base, and a guy with an M16. It's a very secret base, by the way. I mean, these are nuclear subs, and it's in a cove protected, so there's no way for anybody to see the subs in the base. It's in a protected cove, and there's a guy with an M16. As I'm taking my little iPhoto of me being on the sub, I'm having me standing in front of the sub, and the guy comes hauling ass, and he's like, "Put that camera away! Put it away! This is a nuclear sub! That is top secret!" Looking at that periscope! That periscope's top secret! Well, apparently, somehow they allowed us to shoot the top secret periscope, so I guess it's not top secret anymore.
We wanted to obviously get Megatron back. After the first movie, you spend a year, and anyone who knows that you worked on it will say, "Oh, how's Megatron coming back?"
Sure.
And you just realize everyone just wants to see him back. Even though in our minds we're debating it, we're like, well, should we really bring him back?
Yeah, no, there was no world where Megatron didn't come back.
Yeah. Oh, that reminded me, that's right. I was going back to the Cube and Megatron's death here at his resurrection. Many fans, diehard fans, a contingent of them complained that it should have been Optimus Prime who ultimately killed Megatron in the first movie. They were who insisted, I think with the final vote, that it should be Sam and it's Sam's story, that these movies are from his point of view, as much as they're called Transformers, and that's part of the secret of why these movies are accessible, and it's hard to argue with him.
But it's true. The human characters are the audience's entry point, and we listen to what the fans say a lot on the different sites.
And he persuaded us. We went in there armed with fans' reaction to the idea of, I think fans are going to think Optimus should do it, but he was adamant, and I think ultimately right.
We wanted to have the arc in Transformers.
Sorry, interrupted.
Lore, where the Nemesis was crashed on a planet and ripped up, and we wanted the ship interior to be kind of more organic. And as you can see, these gigantic forms that are coming from the ceiling, they're actually taken out of. I was talking before about like microscopic bone fragments and different type of bone that's been. When you go into different bones, you can see some of the vein stuff that's kind of hollowed out, and different gigantic parasites that were blown up through a microscope. And this was kind of the art that informed us what it would look like inside. And then putting in all these little babies, and it was a lot of work to get this scene, the CG scene. It was we kept trying to put in different light sources all through here to make it kind of wrecked and dilapidated. And really, if you look at the sheer, if you slow down these shots and just the amount of detail, put the backgrounds and the vines and the wind blowing in the background and the drips and the mist and the little speckles that come in front of the lens, everything. to screw up the image. It just makes it